She just told me she was going to do it.
It began softly, like most falls do. No boom, no forewarning, just the persistent tick of a clock resonating off the courtroom walls. With every second that ticked by, it brought Kody Brown nearer to the day that would reverse decades of his dominance, his self-assurance, and the empire he established on charisma and power. The courtroom was quiet that morning. The sort of silence that causes people to catch their breath. Even the judge had not yet arrived, and still the air was heavy enough to be palpable. On one side of the aisle sat Kody Brown, serene, unwavering, her blonde hair lit by the shafts of golden light that streamed through the blinds. Beside her sat Janelle, rigid, her jaw clenched, her eyes fixed on the mountain range of documents in front of her. On the opposite side, Kody. He sat back in his chair, arms folded, jaw clenched, as though he could still dominate the room through sheer ego. His lawyer leaned over and whispered something in his ear, but Kody didn't even nod. He wasn't accustomed to being directed. He was accustomed to speaking, explaining, commanding. But what he didn't yet know was that his words, the very foundation upon which he had created his image, would soon become the tool that destroyed him. Kody did not glance at him, not even once. She didn't have to. The years of stony silence, the emotional depletion, the manipulation, all of that had already been worked through. What was left was peaceful clarity. Today was not about rage. Today was about truth, and Kody's own voice was going to speak that truth for her. When the judge entered, everyone rose. Cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom, but journalists sat in the back row, pens ready, recording every word that would later ripple across the internet. "Brown vs. Brown," the judge announced, his tone neutral but firm. "We are here to continue proceedings regarding fiduciary misconduct, property misrepresentation, and defamation. Mr. Brown, Mrs. Brown, are your counsel ready?" Kody's lawyer, calm, coherent, merely replied, "Ready, Your Honor." Kody's staff echoed the reaction. The judge nodded. "Very well. We will proceed with the audio evidence presented by the plaintiffs." That was the moment Kody's complacency frayed, the initial visible tremor. He shifted position, his lips opening slightly as if to object. But the judge's gavel came down once, authoritative and decisive. From the courtroom erupted a click, then silence, then Kody's voice, booming, distinct, unvarnished. It was the voice a million viewers had once watched on national television, but in all its unedited, unflattering glory. "I am the patriarch of this family," the tape started. "You are to do what I say. If you don't, you're out. It's that easy." There it was. Arrogance in its rawest form. The jury shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A couple of spectators looked in the direction of Kody. She didn't budge. The audio continued. "If you desire independence, that's fine. But don't look for support. You can't have both. You live under my roof, or you live without my assistance." Kody's lawyer rose up at once. "Your Honor, that tape—" The judge held up his hand. "Mr. Brown, you will have your say. Take a seat." Kody's face reddened. His temple veins inflated. He leaned forward and muttered harshly to his attorney, but the microphone on his desk picked up bits of what he said. "They're distorting it. They don't know what I meant." The irony loomed heavy. For so long, his words had been his tool, compelling, manipulative, charming when necessary. Now the very same words were being played back as proof of coercion and control. The next clip was played, a conversation from an intimate family meeting, one Kody had secretly taped at the insistence of her attorney. "Without me, you'll never make it," Kody's voice told her stiffly. "You'll break down within a year if you try to live without me." The courtroom gasped. Even the judge breathed slowly. Kody's lawyer glared up at the jury. "These are not terms of partnership. These are terms of domination, of emotional leverage, of power used to manipulate." Kody tightened his fists. He felt the walls closing in. For all the years he had molded the family's narrative, the doting patriarch, the misinterpreted husband, the loyal leader. Now, out of context, his tone betrayed something else: insecurity, control, fear of losing the authority he'd based his identity upon. As the tape went on, Kody attempted to interrupt. "Your Honor, those tapes are out of context. They don't indicate the emotional manipulation I was undergoing at the hands of them." The gavel fell again. "Mr. Brown, this isn't a reality show. This is a courtroom. You will not editorialize." A few stifled guffaws rippled through the gallery. Kody's face became red. Christine's attorney looked to the next item of evidence: copies of Kody's own text messages to Janelle, recovered from phone records. The words displayed on a big screen thickened the air. "You chose your independence over the family. Don't expect me to be there when it all falls apart. You think Christine is your savior? She'll ruin you. This isn't betrayal. This is consequences." Christine's attorney held back. "Mr. Brown, are these your messages?" Kody's jaw clenched. "Yes, but you don't realize—" "Thank you," the lawyer said, returning to the judge. "No further explanation necessary." That's when Christine glanced up, not at Kody, but in the direction of the judge, her face impassive and inscrutable. The silence that fell was oppressive. Even Kody, all bravado, seemed to be out of ideas. The judge leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. "Mr. Brown, you've had years to speak your truth. Today, your words speak for themselves. It wasn't a ruling. It wasn't even a declaration. But it was enough to shatter something in Kody." He gazed down at his hands, seeing that all that he had ever spoken, all that he had constructed his reputation on, was now against him. His words, the source of his power, had turned against him. Christine, on her part, did not smile. She did not have to. The stillness of the moment spoke louder. The judge recessed for lunch soon after, but no one stood up immediately. Kody remained seated, his eyes fixed on the table, as if looking for some incarnation of himself that still exercised control. But the truth was out now, and it had his voice. And for the first time, perhaps ever, Kody Brown had nothing left to say. As the court adjourned for lunch, the room still hummed with electricity. All of them went in muted tones: the attorneys, the court personnel, even the journalists who had been writing at furious pace mere seconds earlier. You might almost hear the silence bearing down on you, punctuated only by the soft buzz of overhead lighting and the reverberation of shoes on marble surfaces. Christine and Janelle strolled side by side down the courthouse corridor. They did not say a great deal. They did not have to. What had just happened was not about retribution or show. It was about truth finally emerging into light. Kody's words for years had been an unseeable leash, a means of reminding them whose turn it was at the reins of love, loyalty, and even spirituality. But today that leash had broken. Christine walked with a quiet dignity. She wasn't victorious. She was free. Her face wore that serene radiance that only results from making it through a storm you initially believed would sink you. Janelle, the practical one, breathed slowly as they approached the lobby. "He's coming apart," she whispered. You could see the craziness in his eyes. He thought he could talk himself out of it. Christine nodded. "He always did." She looked at the courthouse doors, where reporters had started to congregate. He still believes his words count. Outside, chaos reigned. Reporters swarmed the steps, microphones at the ready, camera shutters firing off in quick succession. When Kody eventually came out of the courthouse, the questions blazed at him like projectiles. "Mr. Brown, what do you have to say about the audio evidence? Did you threaten your ex-wives? Do you fear losing the case?" Kody didn't respond to any of them. His jaw was set, his nostrils flared, and his face flushed red. Robyn trailed behind him, her eyes puffy from tears, holding onto his arm as though to anchor him. But her expression was not just one of sadness. She was afraid. "Don't say anything," his attorney whispered brusquely. "Anything you say will be taken out of context. Let's go get into the car." But Kody couldn't stop himself. He paused on the final step, turned to the press, and growled, "They're lying. You all are just lapping it up because it's drama. I was trying to protect my family." The cameras recorded every moment of it. The anger in his tone, the desperation in his eyes, the way Robyn pulled on his sleeve, whispering, "Kody, stop," and was ignored. Christine, looking on from the other side of the street, felt a catch in her chest. Not pity exactly, but the sting of finality. There had been a time she would have wept hearing him tell her that. A time that she had truly believed the family he discussed was real. But now, standing here in the sunlight with Janelle by her side, she knew the truth. It had never been about keeping them safe. It had always been about keeping them in check. That evening, video of Kody's tantrum filled the air. The news, entertainment shows, YouTube channels, all playing the same 10 seconds over and over again, in slow motion, his face twisted with rage. Social media blew up with analysis. Show enthusiasts picked apart every second. One read, "Kody's public meltdown in front of the courthouse is the epitome of poetic justice." Another posted, "Christine stood still, quiet, strong, and Kody yelled at the world." That's it. But the actual harm wasn't going on online. It was going on in Kody's own home. In Flagstaff again, the stress was palpable. Robyn tapped away at the dinner table, shaking with her fingers scrolled across headlines. All the major news sources had reported the story. Kody Brown loses control in courtroom confrontation. Audio proof reveals family manipulation. Christine's silence says more. Then Kody's outrage. Robyn's phone buzzed again. Another family friend's message. She couldn't bear to open it. She watched Kody instead, pacing around the room, grumbling to himself. "They edited those tapes," he snapped. "They're trying to make me out to be a monster. I was only trying to keep the family together. That was my job. Kody." Robyn's voice was soft, almost pleading. "You need to stop watching the coverage. It's only making things worse." He spun toward her, eyes blazing. "You don't get it, Robyn. They're turning everyone against me. Christine, Janelle, even Meri. I'm the victim here." But Robyn remained silent. For the first time, even she was in doubt. Her unshakable devotion that had been the norm earlier was replaced with confusion. Perhaps even doubt. Later that evening, well after the news cycle had faded, Kody sat alone in his office. The house was dark except for the soft hum of a desk lamp. The court transcripts lay open before him, pages filled with highlighter and angry scrawl. His phone buzzed again. Another text. This one from an unknown number. It stated, "You can't escape your own words, Kody. We have more." His heart pounded. He got up, looking around the room as if expecting someone to be there. He figured he'd get an answer quickly. "Who is this?" Silence. The next morning, that silence would be forever shattered. Because waiting for him in court wasn't just another day of hearings. It was the day they would play the recording that not even the public knew existed. The one that would shred the last piece of his defense. The tape that wasn't supposed to exist. The one that would finally reveal the man behind the mask. And when that recording played, Kody wouldn't just lose his case. He'd be losing everything that made him think he was still in charge. The next day, the courtroom was full. Every seat available was occupied by reporters, their cameras focused in the direction of the front, as if vultures patiently awaiting a carcass to stir. You sensed the tension the minute you entered. Even the atmosphere felt thick, like everyone was aware of something irrevocable taking place. Christine sat up front beside Janelle, her fingers interlocked in her lap. Her serene face betrayed the tempest raging within. She didn't require vengeance. She simply required truth, and today that truth would be heard in Kody's own words. The judge arrived, his gavel once, ringing out across the marble walls. The whispers ceased immediately. Kody was seated at the defense table, jaw tight, eyes bloodshot, the muscles of his neck taut like wire. Robyn was by his side, already blotting tears away on a tissue. "Your Honor," the attorney for the plaintiff stood up. "We'd like to introduce new evidence into the record. An authenticated audio recording obtained from an internal witness, validated by digital forensics." The judge arched an eyebrow. "Proceed." Kody's attorney shifted restlessly. "Objection, Your Honor. We were not apprised of—" The judge overrode him. "You'll have a chance to respond after it's played." The lawyer nodded to the clerk, who plugged in a tiny flash drive into the audio system in the courtroom. The screen glowed with only a date and timestamp. March 3rd, 2021, 8:14 p.m., and Kody's voice echoed across the courtroom. Listen, his voice commanded, level but cutting, the sort of tone that begins reasonable and ends with a knife. They don't understand. The minute they begin to doubt me, they're gone. I constructed this family. Without me, there's nothing. A soft shuffling, a sigh, and then another voice. Robyn's. Kody, perhaps you shouldn't say that. I'll say what I want. His voice broke, rising with passion. Christine's disrespected me for years. Janelle as well. They're poisoning the kids, getting everyone against me. If I need to cut them off economically to make a point, I will. They'll crawl back eventually. They always do? The courtroom stilled. Every word echoed with the kind of weight that no spin, no excuse could undo. Christine stared at the screen, unblinking. Janelle's lips parted slightly, not out of surprise, but confirmation. They had suspected this for years, but now it was undeniable. Kody leaned forward, shaking his head furiously. That's taken out of context. The judge raised a hand. You'll have your turn, Mr. Brown. The recording continued. Think I worry about what the public perceives? Kody's voice snapped. They can think whatever I spin for them. I'll get them to feel bad for me. They'll feel sorry for me. Robyn and I will keep the illusion going. TLC adores a redemption story. A collective gasp ran through the room. Even the court reporter froze mid-keystroke, her eyes flying up. Then the coup de grâce. Can't operate a family this way without running things, Kody explained, his voice low, close to smug. They were looking for freedom. Make them drown in it. The final sentence hovered in the air like smoke after a blaze. Christine's lawyer ended the recording. There was silence. Heavy, clenching silence. The judge put on his glasses. Mr. Brown, do you not admit that this is your voice? Kody's mouth moved, but he didn't say a word. He seemed smaller than ever before, like a man who'd finally realized that the empire he had constructed on manipulation had collapsed. Robyn's mascara smudged down her cheeks as she mumbled something under her breath, but Kody did not react. He was numb, not in anger this time, but shock. Christine shifted a little toward Janelle. They shared a glance, not victory, not happiness, but relief. A soft sigh that expressed, it's over. But the court wasn't through. The lawyer moved forward once more. Your Honor, this tape was supported by a written affidavit from the same party, verifying years of financial extortion and emotional abuse. It gives detailed examples of how Mr. Brown withheld family earnings, redirected assets, and forged papers. Kody pounded his fist on the table. That's a lie. All of it. The gavel came down with a thud. Mr. Brown, you will restrain yourself or be taken out of this court. Kody slumped back in his chair, his breathing harsh. His attorney leaned close to say something, but he wasn't hearing. His gaze was fixed on Christine, the same woman he once labeled submissive, obedient, replaceable. Now she possessed the truth. As court recessed for the day, Kody remained seated, gazing at nothing. Christine floated by him, serene and collected, her pace light but deliberate. Robyn's soft sobs rang through the room as it emptied. When Christine arrived at the courthouse doors, the sun struck her face. Reporters converged once more, microphones aloft, voices hanging over each other. Christine, did you know about the recording? Was it difficult to hear those words? Are you vindicated? Christine smiled faintly and said quietly, Nobody gets out of a tale like this alive, but sometimes the truth must hurt in order to heal. And she turned away. That night, while news anchors replayed the clip on every major network, Kody sat by himself in his truck outside the courthouse building. His phone rang continuously. Texts, missed calls, voicemails from TLC, from attorneys, from individuals he believed were his friends. He didn't take any of them. He just gazed at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The same face that he'd always thought of as strong now appeared fatigued, gaunt. And in that instant, for the first time, he understood what Christine and Janelle had understood all along. The truth behind the ego. The next day would see new testimony, more papers, more headlines. But somewhere inside, Kody knew that the real damage had already been done. Because once the world hears your own words condemning you, there's no spinning your way back. And what nobody in that courtroom was aware of, not even Christine, was that there was another recording. One that hadn't been entered. One that Robyn had kept hidden, frightened of what it would say. And when that last tape came out, it wouldn't just reveal the truth. It would rewrite it. The next day, after the sound recording was heard, the courtroom was subdued in a new way. It wasn't the tension silence anymore. It was the silence that comes after disclosure. The one that hangs in the air after the truth explodes and leaves everyone to clean up the emotional wreckage. Kody came dressed in attire that seemed to be a testament to the fact that he had not slept. His swagger was missing, replaced with an air of desperation. His hair was messy, his eyes dark-circled. Even his suit, sharp and confident at the beginning of this trial, now clung awkwardly to him, as if it too wanted to move away from the individual standing inside it. Robyn accompanied him, but not alongside him. There was distance between them, physical and emotional. A gap that no cameras, no grasping hands, no reality show smile could conceal. She dressed in black, her makeup barely there, her eyes puffy. She held a tiny Bible, thumbing its pages as if salvation waited between the lines. Within the courtroom, Janelle and Christine were already seated. They did not whisper. They did not appear smug. They simply waited. They understood that today wasn't about revenge. It was about reckoning. The judge appeared and started proceedings. "Today, we will be hearing testimony from Mrs. Robyn Brown," he stated, looking toward the defense table. Kody stiffened. His face turned to her. "You don't have to do this," he muttered under his breath, but Robyn did not react. Her lawyer rose. "Your Honor, my client wishes to testify voluntarily." The courtroom erupted with a sudden hum. Reporters, observers, even the clerk tensed up. Robyn Brown, once so faithfully standing by Kody's side as his wife, was now going to testify under oath. She rose slowly, walked to the stand, and placed her hand on the Bible she'd brought. Her voice was barely above a whisper as she said, "I do." Christine didn't move. Janelle didn't blink. Kody's jaw tightened until it looked like it might snap. The plaintiff's attorney approached the podium. "Mrs. Brown," she began gently, "you've been married to Mr. Kody Brown for how long?" "Since 2010, Robyn said quietly. "And during that time, would you call him a loving husband?" Robyn paused. Her lips quivered slightly. "Yes, at first. But over the course of all these years, he changed. Or perhaps I finally learned what he really was like." There was a silence that spread throughout the courtroom. The attorney nodded. "Could you go on?" Robyn took a deep breath. He believed he was the head of a divine family, that everything he did was justified because it was God's will. But behind closed doors, there was no divinity. There was control, manipulation, fear. Kody slammed his palm against the table. "You're lying, Robyn." "Mr. Brown," the judge said sternly, "one more outburst and you'll be escorted out." Kody sank back into his chair, his face flushed. Robyn went on, her voice breaking but strengthening. "He said to me once love was money, that the more loyal I was, the safer I'd be. I wanted to think he was right. I stood up for him to the other wives. I even believed the tales he told me about Christine and Janelle being spoiled brats. But when the money dried up, when the walls began to close in, I realized what they had been attempting to inform me about for years." Christine dropped her eyes. There was no victory there, just silent heartache. The lawyer moved forward. "Mrs. Brown, do you remember the bank account mentioned in evidence, KN&R Holdings?" Robyn nodded hesitantly. "Yes. Did you know its purpose?" She swallowed hard. "Initially, no. Kody explained that it was for family security, in case of an emergency for the kids. But when I questioned why the other wives didn't have access, he explained, they don't deserve it. He explained to me, you're the only person that I can trust with actual responsibility. I believed it was love. It was manipulation." A buzz ran through the viewing room. Reporters wrote swiftly, pens scritching like insects on paper. The lawyer held a sheet of paper in front of her. "Is that your signature?" Robyn nodded again. "Yes." And this one moves $120,000 from Family Traditions LLC into K&R Holdings, right? Yes. Did you realize that money was drawn from a common family pool? Robyn nodded, quivering. No, not until Christine confronted me in 2021. She asked me if I knew why the rest of them couldn't access the accounts. I told her Kody was taking care of it. She just stared at me and said, "Exactly." I didn't sleep for days after that. A tear streamed down her cheek. Christine observed, hard-faced but empathetic. The lawyer nodded. "Mrs. Brown, do you believe that Mr. Brown used faith and family as weapons in order to exert control?" Robyn's breath caught. Yes, definitely. Kody leapt out of his chair for the second time. That's it! You think you can all turn on me because I was the only one who kept this family from falling apart? You thankless— The gavel came crashing down. "Mr. Brown, sit down!" The judge bellowed. The courtroom fell silent once more. Kody's shoulders buckled as he slumped into his chair. He rubbed his hands over his face, grumbling to himself, "This is a setup. It's all fake." But in the secret places of his heart, even he was aware. It wasn't fake. It was the reality unfolding in real time. The attorney shifted his attention to Robyn. "Mrs. Brown, final question. Why are you sharing this with the court today?" Robyn's eyes welled up with tears. "Because for the first time, I'm not scared. I can't erase what I overlooked, but I can speak the truth. And perhaps that's how I find peace about it." She descended from the stand without glancing at Kody. Not once. He yelled after her under his breath, "You think they're going to save you? You think they care about you?" But she didn't turn back. Christine and Janelle sat in stunned silence. No smirks, no clapping, just silent acknowledgement that even the woman who'd stood by Kody's side for years had at last caught wind of what they did. Outdoors, the cameras blazed as Robyn left the courthouse by herself. The headlines were being penned even before she stepped onto the stairs. Robyn Brown betrays Kody in court. Collapse of the Brown family, faith, finances, and deception. The day the last wife spoke out. And as the doors shut behind her, Kody remained still, looking at the space she had just vacated. His empire, once established on charm, control, and illusion, was lost. But what no one knew yet was that Robyn hadn't revealed all. There were things she kept hidden, secrets buried under guilt and fear. And one of those secrets, one she'd sworn never to disclose, would be the final blow to Kody's collapse. Because the next witness standing outside wasn't Christine. It wasn't Janelle. It was one of Kody's inner circle. Someone who'd known it all. And their evidence would kill what little was left of Kody's defense. The courtroom hummed like an electrified wire. Nobody said a word above a whisper after Robyn's tearful admission. The air hung heavy with disbelief, grief, and the feeling that something irrevocable had occurred. But the attorney for the plaintiffs wasn't yet done. She stood firmly, resting her hand on a heavy folder. "Your Honor," she stated, "the plaintiffs would like to have our next witness, Ms. Mindy Jessup." The room was filled with whispers. Reporters craned in their chairs, cameras snapped quietly, and Kody's face transitioned from shock to seething anger. Mindy Jessup, Robyn's niece, the nanny who had been within the Flagstaff home for it all. The woman who had witnessed everything from within. Kody pounded his hand on the defense table. "This is a joke. She's not credible. She's just one more pawn in your—" "Mr. Brown," the judge interrupted firmly. "Sit down. You'll have your turn to cross-examine." Kody's jaw clenched, but he obeyed, muttering something under his breath. The bailiff led Mindy to the witness stand. She seemed tiny, surrounded by the pandemonium around her. Mid-30s, plain gray jacket, her hair pulled tightly back. She didn't have an air of needing attention. She had the air of someone who'd waited way too long to release the truth. She swore in, her voice firm. "I do." The lawyer stepped forward. "Ms. Jessup, how long did you serve Kody and Robyn Brown?" "From late 2019 through June 2022, she replied quietly. 19 months shy of 3 years. "And in that period, were you in the Flagstaff home daily?" "Yes. every weekday and most weekends. Would it be accurate to say you had direct access to the Browns' home routines, discussions, and financial transactions? Yes. A ripple of unease spread throughout the courtroom. This wasn't rumor. This was witness testimony from a woman who had lived in the center of the empire. Ms. Jessup, the lawyer went on, why did you agree to testify? Mindy's voice wavered for the first time. Because I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I saw things. Things that weren't right. Things that crushed people's spirits. Kody sat back, shaking his head in amazement. She's lying, he mouthed to his attorney. The lawyer moved in. Let's get this straight. While you were employed by the Browns, who handled the household expenses? Kody and Robyn, Mindy replied at once. Everything came through them. And what about Family Traditions LLC, the business handling the family's joint income? Mindy paused, then nodded. That was to be shared, but it wasn't. Kody said he'd take care of distributions, but I only ever saw checks go to one account, KN&R Holdings. The lawyer's eyebrow went up. And who was the owner of that account? Kody Nathan Brown and Robyn Alice Brown, she stated firmly. Gasps ran around the room. Reporters wrote frantically. Christine and Janelle shared a glance, part vindication, part heartbreak. The lawyer gave Mindy a piece of paper. Do you know this bank transfer? Mindy read the page and nodded. Yes, that was for $50,000. And do you know where it was sent to? She gulped hard. To a contractor to do some renovations on Robyn's home. Christine's lawyer nodded. To be clear, that was family funds? Yes, from Family Traditions LLC. And did Christine, Janelle, or Meri know about this cost? Mindy shook her head. No. They were informed the family couldn't do anything for Coyote Pass, but Robyn's house was renovated in the same time frame. New floors, a media room, even security gates. The lawyer put a photo on the courtroom screen. Receipts, bank transfers, and email threads marked urgent approval. The room fell silent. Then came the follow-up question. Ms. Jessup, did you ever hear Kody and Robyn discussing the other wives? Mindy's eyes shone. Yes, many times. Tell the court what you overheard. She drew a deep breath. They referred to Christine and Janelle as the problem. Kody said Christine was disobedient and that Janelle was too independent. He told them he needed to starve them out financially so they'd leave without a struggle. Gasps rose in the room once more. Kody's attorney got to his feet. Objection and hearsay. Overruled, the judge replied matter-of-factly. Go on. Mindy's voice trembled a little now. He said to Robyn that if he severed their funding, they'd collapse. And Robyn concurred. She said, after they're gone, we can rebuild without the commotion. Christine blinked slowly. The word struck her like a memory she had attempted to hide. The attorney nodded. Ms. Jessup, did you ever witness discussions about hiding money? Yes. Please elaborate. Mindy leaned forward slightly. There were emails concerning rerouting TLC payments. Kody told them the network owed them $180,000 an episode. He told them if they sent the checks through KN&R, they could make it clean. I didn't get it at first, but then he said, and I'll never forget this, they signed contracts. They don't own the family's image, I do. Kody thumped his hand down again. That's out of context. I established this family business. You all, Mr. Brown, the judge said, holding up a hand once more. One further interruption and you will be held in contempt. Kody glared but remained silent. The attorney addressed Mindy once more. Ms. Jessup, was anyone else aware of these transactions? No, Mindy replied quietly. Kody ensured that. He told me, loose lips sink families. The judge's eyebrow went up. Sink families? Yes, Your Honor. That's what he referred to it as. Christine sat staring ahead, her face unreadable. Janelle's fist formed in her lap. The attorney's voice became gentler. Ms. Jessup, I know this is not easy, but can you tell us what prompted you to finally leave? Mindy gazed at her hands. It wasn't the money. It was what I saw happen to the children. The courtroom waited with bated breath. There were times that Robyn's children had everything. Tutors, vacations, new attire. and the other kids were struggling. There was a time I caught one of the younger kids asking why their dad would not come visit them. Kody said to Robyn later that evening, "They'll realize one day. Loyalty is first." That evening, I made up my mind to quit. I could no longer pretend that I did not see it. Her eyes welled with tears. I wasn't brave then. But maybe by telling the truth now, I can finally make it right. The judge nodded seriously. Kody leaned back in his chair, his face flushed and eyes glazed. For the first time, he seemed small. Not the booming patriarch, not the TV dad, but a man collapsing beneath the weight of his own testimony. Christine whispered something to Janelle, and Janelle nodded faintly. They weren't celebrating. This wasn't victory, it was validation. The kind that comes too late to undo the years of silence and pain. The attorney thanked Mindy and returned to her seat. The judge looked at Kody, then at the room. "This court will recess for the day. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning." The gavel fell, echoing like thunder. Reporters mobbed the courthouse steps. Headlines popped on social media before anyone had even exited the room. Insider opens Kody Brown's financial scales. Brown family trial gets shocking twist. Witness testifies Kody starved out his own wives. Christine and Janelle emerged in silence. The sun had set over the steps, a warm golden light after years of shadows. Kody remained in the courtroom hours after everyone else had left. His attorney attempted to speak to him, but he didn't answer. His gaze was transfixed on the vacant witness stand, where Robyn and Mindy had once sat. All he'd established, the family, the reputation, the legacy, was running through his fingers. And the following day, he would see the one witness who would cap it all. A person he never imagined would betray him. A person who held the last bit of evidence that could shatter the facade once and for all. His own son would testify to the court very soon. The light of day crept into the courthouse windows as a sluggish truth. The air was thick. Reporters murmured, cameras popped, and all the seats were taken well before the judge arrived. Overnight, word had come out that the next witness wasn't merely an insider in the know. It was Kody's own flesh and blood. Kody strode in, dressed in the same black suit he'd worn every day that week, but now it wasn't as slim as it had been. His shoulders sagged, his jaw clenched. He appeared to be a man torn between anger and remorse. Robyn walked behind, eyes red, her tissue already quivering in her hand. Christine and Janelle sat together at their table, side by side. No smugness graced their faces, only the still sadness. The kind that results from knowing justice doesn't take away the pain that created it. The bailiff called the court to order. The judge came in, and the low murmur of voices ceased. "Call your next witness," said the judge. Christine's lawyer stood. "The plaintiffs call Mr. Gabriel Brown." Kody went rigid. His gaze snapped toward the door, shock etched on his face. "No," he muttered, hardly above a whisper. They wouldn't, but they did. Gabriel entered slowly, his expression serene but wan. The whole room leaned forward. He wasn't here as Kody's son. He was here as a witness. He approached the stand, raised his right hand, and swore to tell the truth. His voice never wavered once. When he had sat down, the judge smiled faintly at the attorney. "Proceed. Mr. Brown," the attorney started, "can you tell us about your relationship with your father, Kody Brown?" Gabriel sighed. "It was good once," he replied softly. "Before the pandemic. Before control became everything." Kody's jaw clenched, his fingers wrapping around the table so tightly his knuckles went white. "Can you tell us what shifted?" the attorney asked. Gabriel's eyes flashed briefly, not with rage but anguish. "When COVID began, my dad imposed rules on the family. Strict ones. He told us they were for our protection, but they weren't equal for all. Christine and Mom were locked away. Me and my brothers couldn't go see them. But Robyn's family, they were treated differently. They could visit him whenever." Whispers ripple across the courtroom. Gabriel didn't take his gaze from the lawyer. "I attempted to speak with him," he went on. "I explained to him that it was not fair. I explained to him that we felt like we didn't matter anymore. But he did not wish to hear it. He told us that we were disrespecting his leadership." The lawyer nodded slowly. Did you ever have a direct argument with your father over this? Gabriel's throat constricted. Yes, when he wouldn't come visit me on my birthday. I called him. I pleaded with him to come. He said it was too dangerous. But that night I saw photos. Him at Robyn's house, no mask, sitting by a bonfire. I understood it wasn't about safety. It was about control. A tear slipped free, but Gabriel didn't glance away. The lawyer paused, allowing the words to sink in. And how did it change you? It shattered me, he replied matter-of-factly. I quit trying after that. The courtroom was quiet. No pens scribbling, no cameras snapping. Only the voice of a son spelling out years of pain before a nation. Mr. Brown, the lawyer said gently, why did you come forward today? Gabriel's gaze darted to his dad. Kody was shaking his head back and forth in denial. Because, Gabriel stated, I saw my mom, Janelle, suffer for years. I saw Christine struggle to keep her children safe. And I saw my dad blame everybody except himself. I'm here because I love him. But somebody's got to tell the truth. Kody pounded his hand on the table. Don't you dare pretend to know what I've done for this family. His voice rolled across the courtroom like a storm breaking. The judge hammered his gavel. Mr. Brown, sit down at once. But Kody remained standing, his finger jabbing toward his son. You're ungrateful. All of you! You think this is about money? About fame? You don't know what I gave up! You don't— Mr. Brown, the judge's voice boomed. One more interruption and I will hold you in contempt. The courtroom was silent. Kody's attorney pulled him down by the arm. Gabriel sat immobile, gazing at the man who had once been his idol. The lawyer went on softly. Mr. Brown, how did that make you feel? Gabriel's voice shook for the first time. Like I finally saw who he really was. He wiped his face hastily, collecting himself. He's not the man he once was. The fame got to him. The control, the cameras, the money, they all caused him to forget what family is. I wish it weren't so, but that's what he's become. Kody's eyes welled up now. His lips trembled, but he remained silent. The lawyer nodded, taking a step back. No more questions. The defense lawyer rose slowly. Gabriel, he started quietly. Do you love your dad? Yes, Gabriel replied. And you don't want anything to happen to him, right? Gabriel paused. No, I don't want anything to happen to anyone. I just want the truth in front of everyone. The defense lawyer smiled faintly. I see that. But couldn't it be that you've been swayed by your mother, by what she's endured? Perhaps her account of it had an impact on the way you thought. Gabriel shifted forward, his face serious. No, I experienced it. I witnessed it. And no one said to me what I should have felt. I was there when he took sides. The courtroom gasped. Even the judge leaned forward. The defense attorney flubbed. You think your father took sides? I know he did, Gabriel replied. He took Robyn over all of us. Over me, over my siblings, over Mom. He created a new family while acting like the old one never happened. That is not leadership. That is abandonment. Christine looked away, her jaw shaking. Janelle clenched her hands into fists. The defense attorney let out a sigh. No further questions, Your Honor. The judge nodded. You can step down, Mr. Brown. Gabriel stood. But he stopped to turn and look at his father again. For a few seconds, they stood there together. Father and son, once two peas in a pod, now on opposite sides of the truth. I still love you, Dad, Gabriel whispered, but I can't save you from yourself anymore. He stepped outside, and Kody stood gazing at the vacant witness stand. The judge ordered a quick recess, but nobody budged. The courtroom air was thick, the sort of silence that hangs in the air like an impending storm. Robyn leaned forward and whispered something in Kody's ear, but he did not react. His eyes glassed over, his face ashen, as if something below pride had broken when his son spoke. Christine stood across the room and watched him, not with victory, but compassion. Because she knew this wasn't victory. This was the slow unraveling of a man who had built his kingdom on control, and was now watching it crumble, piece by piece. As the gavel struck to end the session, the judge's voice echoed like a prophecy. We'll reconvene tomorrow for closing arguments. Tomorrow. The final day, the day Kody Brown's fate would be determined. Not by his enemies, not by his wives, but by the truth he could no longer contain. And deep inside, behind the rage, even Kody knew. The gavel already fell. The last day in court dawned with a gray sky. The type that makes even the air thicker, as if the world itself was poised, taking a deep breath. The steps were lined with reporters. Flashes flickered from cameras. And inside, all seats were filled. Christine arrived first, serene and intent. Her hair was pulled back, her face firm, not angry, not smug, just determined. Janelle arrived a few minutes later, clutching a folder against her chest. Meri came in quietly, making eye contact with none of the reporters. For the first time in years, the three women sat on the same bench, not as sister wives, but as survivors of something much bigger than marriage. Kody entered last, alone. Robyn wasn't with him. The whispers rippled immediately. "She's not coming." His face was drawn, his eyes hollow. Gone was the fiery patriarch who used to command every room, every camera, every woman's loyalty. This was a man stripped bare. The judge entered and silence fell instantly. The tension was electric. Every glance, every breath carried weight. "Court is now in session," the judge stated. His tone was steady, calm, the sort of voice that let you know the storm was about to break. Christine's attorney began first. "Your Honor, this case has never been about vengeance. It's been about truth and accountability. What started as a family based on faith and harmony became a business based on control and deceit. The proof is before you. The money, the manipulation, the emotional damage, it's all here. But at its heart, this case is about three women who were told their voices didn't count." She faced the jury. "And today, those voices will finally be heard." Kody's attorney took his turn, his voice defensive, pleading. "Your Honor, this is not a case of cruelty or fraud. This is a family sundered by miscommunication, by celebrity, by strangers who never understood the nuance of their relationships. Mr. Brown has erred, but error is not criminal." Christine's attorney didn't bat an eye. She simply faced Kody and stated, "Sometimes, silence is a crime." The courtroom growled. Kody's face furrowed. The judge then nodded. "Mr. Brown, before I read my decision, do you have anything to say?" For an instant, it looked as though Kody wouldn't say a word. He held perfectly still, his hands together, his chest expanding and collapsing in irregular breaths. And then he rose, slowly, like one bearing the weight of years of his own decisions on his back. His voice broke on the first word. "I did what I believed was right," he said. "I attempted to keep this family together. I gave all that I had to these women, my time, my love, my leadership." Christine gazed down, her eyes welling up with tears, not out of sympathy, out of acknowledgement. She'd heard that line 1,000 times before. Kody went on, voice shaking with rage. "You think I wanted that? You think I wanted to have my family fall apart on national television? To be villainized while all the rest get to be victims?" He spun around to face the judge. "They walked out. They quit on the vision. They shattered the dream we created together. And now you stand here acting like I'm the one who shattered it." He pounded on the table. "You want to punish me for being the only one who even attempted it." The judge held up his hand, but Kody wasn't done. "You all think you know what's true," he said, addressing Christine, Janelle, and Meri. "But the truth isn't what you make it out to be. The truth died the day you lost faith in me." And with that, his voice cracked entirely. The courtroom was silent as a tomb. Christine breathed slowly, her tears dropping softly. Janelle stared straight ahead, eyes fixed. Meri closed her eyes. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Brown," he said, his voice measured but unflinching. "What I see before me is not a man punished for leading. It's a man held accountable for the harm his leadership caused." He took up a sheet of paper, the verdict. "The court rules in favor of the plaintiffs." The room gasped. Kody's head hung. Robyn was still missing. His hand shook as the judge went on reading the penalties. Restitution, damages, discovery of assets, all that they had struggled for. But the money was no longer important. Not to Christine. Not to Janelle. Not to Meri. This was something greater. It was the sound of liberty. When the gavel finally fell, Kody jumped. A harsh, unconscious sound, like a man hit by lightning. Christine rose. Janelle followed. Meri came next. They walked out through the same doors they had once entered as wives, now exiting as women released from him, from his explanations, from his constant excuses. The cameras outside waited, but for the first time they did not pause to take photos. Christine lingered at the top of the courthouse steps, sunlight spilling over her. She turned back once, not to gloat, not to hurt, just to look. Kody froze in the courtroom, looking down at the gavel that ended it all. His reflection quivered dimly in the shiny wood, bent and miniature. And then there was a sound, a buzzing phone shattering the silence. He picked it up. The screen flickered once with a single message. From Robyn. 4 words. Just 4. They know everything, Kody. His hands shook. The camera crews outside didn't notice. The world didn't hear. But in that courtroom, a new tempest had just been born. Because whatever Christine's envelope contained wasn't the end. It was merely the start,